last day of the month of September 2025, our top stories on The Explainer tonight.
Linda Mama was good. Linda Jamii is obviously better.
My plan is better. President Ruto touts Linda Jamii as a stronger program, brushes off Uhuru's claims that he destroyed healthcare.
Nitachukua hiyo kura, nitapiga. But sina imani na kama kutakuwa na hiyo change.
Low turnout dogs voter registration as IEBC struggles to enlist 6 million new voters.
You can answer the question as to whether, sorry Chair, allow me to guide him, whether you can register a parcel without survey. What comes before there?
Hundreds march in Narok over another land row as CS Wahome admits 4,700 acres of Olkiombo Ranch were illegally registered.
Kafika 30 maisha ikakuwa vizuri, but my uncle akakufa na throat cancer. Sasa fenya alikufa ndio changamoto zikaanza kunifuata, sina school fees.
From lecture halls to street life, a medical student's dreams crumble after losing his only support. 25 years ago, Kenya, amongst other African countries, signed that trade pact commonly known as AGOA with the United States of America. And today, 25 years later, that trade pact expires. So what next for the over 60,000 workers who are working in the export processing zones in the country? What next for exporters? What next for that trade pact? We're going to be talking about that and much more to do with trade and investment in the country, both for foreigners and for local investors. On The Explainer tonight, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of trade and investments is joining us here live to speak about those issues. CS Lee Kinyanjui will be speaking with me in a short while. Any questions you have, you're a business owner, you want to talk about tariffs, you want to talk about trade, you want to talk about the tax regime, all your questions at Citizen TV Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara. We shall be posing them to Cabinet Secretary Lee Kinyanjui here on The Explainer, which starts right now.
Live from Citizen TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Njoki Shege is our sign language interpreter. Let's begin tonight with former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who continues to face sharp criticism from Kenya Kwanza leaders, with President William Ruto now leading the charge. Ruto told his predecessor that the Social Health Authority program is far superior to Uhuru's Linda Mama. While acknowledging that health reforms started under Uhuru's tenure, Ruto insisted the difference between the two programs is clear and visible. Speaking in Kajiado County, the president stressed that his government had not scrapped Linda Mama, but rather enhanced it. And as Emmanuel Tor reports, Health CS Aden Duale went a step further, accusing the Linda Mama program of being used to rob Kenyans through fictitious claims.
In an apparent rejoinder to the blistering assessment by his predecessor, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, President William Ruto, who is fresh from his US tour, took an aim at his former boss, albeit politely, telling off his program.
Linda Mama was good. Linda Jamii is obviously better. And therefore, it is an improvement from what it was in terms of the scope, from just delivery of mothers, which was the primary target of Linda Mama.
President Ruto also dismissing Kenyatta's claims that the program was scrapped.
We've now improved it to cover prenatal, before the delivery, postnatal, the delivery itself, postnatal, and it's no longer targeting mama. it is targeting Jamii, mama plus the children plus the household.
Nobody has scrapped Linda Mama. But what have we done? We have enhanced the cover of Linda, of the mother, and added the family.
However, Health Cabinet Secretary, who came out guns blazing, accused Kenyatta's administration of using the program to pile up questionable debts under the now defunct National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF.
They left us with 30 billion fictitious NHIF debt. Out of that debt, Linda Mama debt under NHIF inpatient was 4.8 billion. Outpatient was 306 million. In total, my good friend, my former leader, you have left us with 5.6 billion Linda Mama.
Kenyatta, who addressed the Jubilee Party delegates in Nairobi Friday, lambasted President Ruto, saying he had reversed many gains made by his administration. President Ruto was speaking in Kajiado County when he commissioned the construction of a multi-billion complex at the Uma University. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV.
The Kenyan government has been urged to allow the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights to visit and assess the country's human rights situation. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, in an advisory to the government, has recommended that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs grants the UN the rights and opportunity to visit the country officially. The recommendation comes on the back of what the KNCHR terms as poor human rights conditions in the country.
The Commission continues to raise concerns on the state in which the country's human rights defenders operate. From arbitrary arrests and detention to the outright killing of human rights defenders, the Commission has called out the government and its agencies for failing to perform its primary duty of protecting and enhancing their rights.
We have arbitrary arrests of the HRDs. Many of them, sometimes they are taken to court and then they are released because there is no evidence of any criminal act. They are only expressing, violations of human rights. And I think the missing link that you are talking about here is how do we connect what they are expressing on behalf of the citizens as the voices of reason.
KNHCR reviewed the period between 2020 to 2022 and found that 8 human rights defenders were killed, 2 were disappeared, while 144 human rights defenders were detained arbitrarily. Those figures, human rights activists say, have increased in the ensuing period.
The statistics that you've seen here, the graphs, will go down by 30% at least. As there are too many state officers who are being cowed as a result of orders from above. The culture of fear is too rampant in many of the state agencies, whether they are investigators, or police officers, whether they are prosecutors, whether they're even judicial officers. The entire structure, unfortunately, has become paralyzed by essentially executive state capture.
Kenya's human rights record is also taking a beating on the international stage. KNCHR says the country's delay in allowing the UN Special Rapporteur on the rights to freedom of peaceful assembly and association to visit is placing the country in bad standing.
I have no specific reason why the government or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not keen in granting these special rapporteurs. But these special rapporteurs coming from the UN, they play a very crucial role. They will be able to bring out probably information to the state for action.
The Commission further wants the government to enact legislation or policy that will recognize the role of human rights defenders in the country, as well as ratify international protocols that enhance and protect human rights defenders in Kenya. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
There was low turnout on day 2 of the IEBC mass voter registration, or rather continuous voter registration exercise across the country. Majority of those who turned up on the second day of the exercise were Gen Z, who said they aim to influence the outcome of the 2027 general election by electing leaders who will address the many challenges facing them, such as unemployment. Seth Olale reports.
21-year-old Nazri Wekesa, a student at the Kenya Medical Training College and a resident of Kibra constituency, was among youth who made their maiden IEBC voter registration at the Kibra constituency registration center.
Tunataka kuchagua viongozi ambao wako realistic. Wenye at least watakuwa na changes kwa society.
Fellow students Berry Lomolo and Frederick Mutula also used the lunch hour break to secure their voters' cards.
I also want to take an initiative also to participate to change the country.
I need a better country. I need a better nation with job where youths are employed.
By the close of business Tuesday, the Kibra constituency voter registration center had a cumulative tally of 60 new entrants. Low voter registration turnout was also witnessed in Kisumu, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kajiado and Bomet counties, where a few youth underwent the biometric process.
Sisi bila kura hatuwezi badilisha serikali. Serikali huwezi badilisha na mkono, lakini kura unaweza badilisha nao serikali.
Nimeona jinsi vile wamefanya mambo yao. Ankaona afadhali pia mimi ngana nao. Lepo kama si jinsi, lakini naona mambo wanafanya lazima kuunga mkono wale watu.
Hata sikuwa najua watu kuna voter registration. Tusini watu wana hustle, so tuko busy sana. Kura nita register, nitachukua hiyo kura, nitapiga. But sina imani na kama kutakuwa na hiyo change.
We registered zero. We didn't register anybody yesterday, and today I'm happy to report that at least we have registered 2 voters, and we are still expecting more to come.
Mikakati wekwe ya kufanya hizi IDs and collected IDs zitoke kwa ofisi ziende mashinani. I think my plea yangu pia ni hiyo. Tufanye bidii hizi IDs zitoke.
The IEBC registration exercise will go on for 8 months countrywide. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission says it is targeting at least 6.3 million new voters that will exercise their civic responsibility during the 2027 general election. Seth Olale, Citizen TV, Kibra, Nairobi County.
Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome now says the contentious 4,700-acre Ol Kiombo Ranch within the Masai Mara Game Reserve was irregularly acquired. The CS revealed that the land was not surveyed before a certificate of ownership was issued to Narok Governor Patrick Ole Ntutu's brother, Livingstone Kunini Ntutu. The land, which has been the subject of a close to 30-year litigation between a section of the Maasai community in Narok County and Kunini, is currently before the Court of Appeal. Here's Emily Chebet.
The land tussle, which has been in and out of court for close to 3 decades, moved to Parliament, where fresh revelations emerged. Speaking when she appeared before the National Assembly Lands Committee, Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome said the land records were questionable.
You can answer the question as to whether, sorry Chair, allow me to guide him, whether you can register a parcel without survey. What comes before there?
It is not possible, only for this case which I have seen now, that there was a registration of a parcel of land that is never supported by any survey. From our side, we have already declared that this parcel is foreign to us.
The lawyer representing the county government consented to allow Kunini collect the money. Public money, for that matter. We had expected in the bare minimum, they will have at least agreed to have in escrow account.
The revelations from the Ministry of Lands are raising more questions than answers. The members of parliament questioning the credibility of the documents in possession of Kunini Ntutu, who won a court case earlier in the year allowing him to collect revenue from the parcel of land.
The issue of 155 is a strange number that only known to Kunini and the people probably helping him to acquire and deprived and rob the Maasai people.
As much as the CS did not do it with the figure that she wanted her to do, she has given you the last nail on their coffin. The survey does not exist. So we don't have any piece of land by the rec number 155. And this is a closed case.
If there is no survey records, then there is a problem. In fact, sometimes even the records may be misplaced. But in this case, we are saying they did not exist.
Elsewhere, hundreds of residents from Urkinye in Narok South staged protests against grabbing of 119 acres of land by allegedly influential persons in government.
This one has done illegally, and procedurally, and officially. Hawa wanakamati wamekuja kugawa hiyo hati including machifu wawili, assistant chief na mwingine ameenda retire. Ni mahali tumetenga tuweke shule secondary, ni mahali tumetenga tuweke university, ni mahali tumetenga tuweke hospitali.
The residents presented a formal petition at the Deputy County Commissioner's office in Narok South, warning that they will return to the streets in less than 2 weeks if the matter is not addressed. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV.
Family, friends and leaders have paid tribute to the late Dalmas Otieno, remembering him as a statesman who dedicated his life to defending the rights of ordinary citizens, promoting peace and championing key reforms during his tenure in various government ministries. He was also celebrated for his role in the peace accord that ended the 2007 post-election violence and for influencing retired President Uhuru Kenyatta to form his own political party after exiting KANU. Willie Lusige reports.
It was a final farewell as family, friends and leaders from across the political divide came together to celebrate the life and legacy of veteran politician Dr. Dalmas Morris Otieno Anyango, who died recently at the age of 80 after a short illness. To his family, he was the pillar that held them together, a guiding light who led by example. They described him as a man whose integrity and service left a lasting footprint, crediting him with transforming lives both as Rongo Member of Parliament and as a cabinet minister.
Introduced a medical insurance scheme for civil servants and launched Kenya School of Government Act.
Dalmas Otieno's political journey traces back to the 1970s when he emerged as a student leader at Makerere University alongside Peter Anyang' Nyong'o. Together, they spearheaded the institution's first ever student protest, a historic march to the South African embassy in Uganda to condemn apartheid.
And you could see Dalmas Otieno towering above everybody. And after that demonstration, there was no further demonstration.
Honorable Dalmas Otieno. In Kenya, Dalmas served 3 terms as a Rongo Member of Parliament and led key ministries from 1988, starting as a Minister for Industry. He played a crucial role in the formation of the coalition government that followed the 2007 post-election crisis, later being appointed Minister of State for Public Service.
He's one person who was never confronted by Moi at any time. He was never confronted because he's always very calm.
2013, 2017, I was working closely with Uhuru Kenyatta, and Dalmas was in court, and the country was so divided. And Dalmas was the reason, the voice of reason, which was calming us down.
He will also be remembered as the person who convinced President Uhuru Kenyatta to resign as KANU chairman and form the National Alliance TNA, which became his political vehicle to the presidency.
In 2006, 2007, when we were riding on ODM, all politics is local. Akamwambia.
A requiem mass for the veteran politician will be held in Rongo on Wednesday ahead of his final send-off at his home in Kangeso village, Kamagambo, Rongo in Migori County. Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM party leader Raila Odinga, among other key leaders, have confirmed attendance. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV.
Duncan Barongo, a Bachelor of Medicine and a surgery student at the Kenyatta University, is on the brink of losing his dream of becoming a doctor after dropping out of medical school in 2024. The 25-year-old orphan, who was in his 5th year when he was forced out of class and into the streets of Githurai 45 due to lack of fees and rent. Barongo, who was rescued last week by well-wishers and offered temporary accommodation, is now appealing for support to clear his fees and revive his dream. Gatete Njoroge reports.
On arrival at Redeemed Gospel Church in Githurai 45 Kimbo, Duncan Barongo ushers us through the gate, welcoming us into what he now calls home. For more than a year, Barongo wandered the streets of Githurai 45, sleeping in empty stalls, scavenging for food in dump sites, and surviving one day at a time. What his street family never knew was that Barongo was not just another face on the streets. He was a medicine and surgery student at Kenyatta University, a promising life disrupted following the death of his guardian.
My uncle ndiye alikuwa ananisupport, channel ilikuwa vizuri, nikafika second year bado maisha ilikuwa vizuri, nikafika third year maisha ikakuwa vizuri, but my uncle akakufa na throat cancer. Sasa fenya alikufa, ndio changamoto zikaanza kunifuata, sina school fees.
In his 4th year, fellow students came to his aid. Through fundraising, they managed to cover his school fees and rent, giving him a lifeline to keep his dream alive. But the support was short-lived. By his 5th year, the burden became too heavy, and Barongo was forced to drop out of medical school.
2024 January ndio nilifika, sasa nikaona hakuna option wakati nilikuwa nimefungiwa nyumba. Nilikuwa nimekaa miezi 3 bila kulipa nyumba, nikafika nikafungiwa, wakauza laptop yangu, wakauza stethoscope, kila kitu, kwa nyumba ilikuwa ya agent. Hasa mimi nikapata na depression, nikaamua nikakimbia kwa street. Hapo ndio nimekaa street.
Depressed and with no home to return to, Barongo had little choice but to join street families in order to survive. Even then, he refused to give up, clinging to hope as he battled the harsh realities of life on the streets. His turning point came when friends introduced him to a rehabilitation program run by the Redeemed Gospel Church in Githurai 45.
Nilikuwa naamini tu ipo siku. Ninaamini kuwa mateso ni ya mta. Bado nilikuwa naomba tu ndoto yangu lazima nimalize hata nikiwa na 50 years. Lazima to achieve my dream. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa kwa akili.
Tuko na challenge ya chakula na kukaa kwake. Kwa hivyo hiyo tu tupate mtu wa kumhifadhi, amlipie shule na mahali pa kukaa.
The whole year he's been in the streets, but he's still determined to go back to school. Number one, he did not get to alcoholism or addiction. That is a big sign and a big strength of somebody who is looking forward to fulfilling his dream.
Barongo, who is hopeful of getting a sponsor to pay for his fees, which is 46,000 shillings a year, says he will be forced to add another year in university to compensate for the lost time. He has urged the government to consider making education free for bright but needy students. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Kiambu County.
Duncan Barongo in that story says ipo siku. Perhaps today is that day for him, because right when that story was airing, we got a call from the Kenyatta University Alumni Board and the Director of Endowment, who would like Duncan Barongo to visit the office in the KU Alumni Building for assistance. Once again, that issue might likely be resolved and Duncan might find his way back into a classroom after the director of the KU Alumni Endowment Board, that's Dr. Mwangi Gashara, has offered to have him visit him at the KU Alumni Building for assistance. We will ensure that we get this message to Duncan Barongo, and that maybe after airing this story tonight, that he can continue with his studies and fulfill his dreams. That's a great update. All's well that ends well. Let's talk about other stories making headlines here on The Explainer tonight. Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale told a consultative meeting with the consortium of faith-based health providers to strengthen collaboration in the rollout of the Taifa Care program. That's the government's new universal health coverage. During the meeting, the Social Health Authority committed to assigning dedicated relationship managers to faith-based hospitals and clinics, ensuring claims are paid on a first-in, first-out basis, and working with the providers to conduct joint medical clinics aimed at improving service delivery, especially in rural and underserved regions. Faith-based organizations, which collectively run nearly 40% of health facilities in Kenya, agreed to provide lists of remote hospitals and dispensaries that require digitization support to ease claims processing and patient management. In addition, churches and mosques will host registration desks to boost public enrollment into Taifa Care. Duale further announced upcoming visits to the mission for essential drugs and supplies, as well as the launch of modern CT scans at Tenwek Hospital in Bomet and Dreamland Hospital in Kisii. Initiatives, he said, are parts of wider efforts to expand diagnostic services. Police in Bungoma have arrested a nurse at a private facility over allegations of raping a Form 3 student admitted at the facility he works for wound dressing and malaria treatment. The suspect, 30-year-old Martin Wekesa, who was reportedly acknowledged the incident with the facility's management, was caught in the act by a colleague who was doing rounds on the wards on Friday night. The family of the victim, however, alleged a plot by the facility to cover up the incident, claiming the minor was forced to bathe after the act. Bungoma South Police Commander William Leting, while confirming the incident, has cautioned against the rapid rise in cases of defilement in the area.
Mtoto alituambia huyo daktari alimvuruta na akamvua hizo nguo, na mahali walikuwa hakukuwa na watu wengine, lakini the following morning after hicho kitendo kutendeka usiku saa 6 asubuhi walimwambia mtoto wetu ingie bafu aoge. They are trying to conceal the evidence.
Police officers walipopata hii report mara moja wakaenda mpaka hiyo hospitali na wakathibitisha kisa hicho, na pia wakamshika huyo mshukiwa ambaye sasa tuko naye hapa kikorokoroni. Tumefungulia mashtaka na anangoja kupelekwa kotini.
A section of students from public universities have threatened to go on strike if the government does not resolve the lecturer strike within the next 24 hours. The students lament that the ongoing strike by university dons has left them idle and unattended in classrooms, expressing concern that prolonged industrial action will affect their academic calendar. The students, who say they spend most of their time in their residency halls or the library, say that if the strike is not resolved, they risk losing an entire semester. Lecturers want the state to settle 7.9 billion shillings in outstanding dues from the 2017-21 CBA and also commence new talks for the 2025-2029 CBA. This ongoing paralysis of learning in public universities mirrors a similar one last year that saw the semester spill over to the first quarter of this year.
Concrete public stated plan for the recovery of lost time, including revised academic calendar to prevent this disruption from becoming lost semester or delayed graduation for thousands of students.
Any delayed academic calendar, they shall compensate it.
Yes.
As we know, right now there's an ongoing strike of the lecturers. We will not sit back and relax while these people are delaying our dreams in this nation.
Yes. We've been 2 months in school without going to classes, and it's remaining like 1 month to our examination, and we've never seen our lecturers in class. And we are not going to retreat. We are here so that you can hear our voices. The government should address this issue in 24 hours. If it is not going to address this issue in 24 hours, we are assuring you that we are going to be in the road.
All right, before we take a commercial break, I just want to give you a reminder about the good news we received tonight. The story we aired of Duncan Barongo, who was out on the streets after being orphaned and didn't find the fees to be able to continue his schooling at the Kenyatta University, has now been asked to visit the KU Alumni Building. The Director of Endowment, Dr. Mwangi Gashara, would like to offer him further assistance to enable him continue with his studies and fulfill his dreams. So that's some good update on the story we aired just a few minutes ago. We're taking a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of trade and investments and industry in the country. That's CS Lee Kinyanjui. We'll be talking about AGOA that expires tonight. What next for that trade pact with the US? What else lies in store? And indeed, what is the state of trade and investment in the country? That and much more here on The Explainer right after this short break. Coming up, CS for Trade Lee Kinyanjui speaks on the expiry of AGOA and what next for over 60,000 workers. Welcome back. We shall be speaking with Cabinet Secretary Lee Kinyanjui in just a moment. Please also send us your questions. The hashtag is The Explainer at Citizen TV Kenya at Yvonne Okwara. But first, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations is tonight offering a 1 million shillings bounty for the capture of murder suspect Collins Jumaisi, who escaped from police custody in August of 2024. In an alert posted on the Directorate's social media handles across various platforms, the National Police Service pledges a cash reward of 1 million shillings to anyone who provides credible information that will assist in the rearrest of the suspect. The DCI says every piece of information is valuable. DCI issues a toll-free number and asks Kenyans with information to also report to the nearest police station or through police hotlines. The alert comes after a Citizen TV special over the weekend that focused on the alleged murders of 42 women for which Jumaisi was suspected and arrested. He escaped from police custody before the prosecutor could prefer murder charges. Kibera High Court has denied bail to 6 suspects, including the main suspect, Samson Talam, who was the OCS at Central Police Station in the case of blogger and teacher Albert Ojwang. Elsewhere, a suspect in the brutal murder of a patient at the Kenyatta Hospital, Kennedy Kalombotole, through his lawyers, has dismissed the psychiatric report, claiming its objectives did not meet the standards for a person like Kalombotole. Ore Francis takes a quick look at some of the key court proceedings.
Former OCS Central Police Station Nairobi Samson Talam and his co-accused will remain in custody until the murder case against them begins after the court refused to admit them to bail or bond, citing Article 49(1) of the Constitution.
In addition, the demonstrated risk of witness interference provides a further compelling reason against the first, second, and third accused. The application for bail is therefore declined at this stage.
Justice Kavetsa noted that despite claims by the first and second accused that they had been interdicted, they still wielded connections and influence capable of undermining the criminal justice system. She emphasized that the concerns raised were not speculative, but grounded on genuine risks, including the possibility of tampering with CCTV footage.
The first 4 witnesses laid the foundation of the case. I want the first 4 key witnesses. Then it's going to be a continuous pre-trial, probably for a whole month or 2 months. How many witnesses do you have anyway? 18 witnesses.
The court session was, however, interrupted briefly.
Arrest Eliud Lagat. Arrest the main suspect in this case. Without the main suspect being arrested, Kenyans will not get justice in this case. We will not forget. We will not forgive.
with Justice Kavetsa giving orders on how to handle the man behind the interruption.
Same person, take him to Kibera police station. I'll be the complainant here. Interference, creating a disturbance. Take him to the police station.
In another case, the High Court deferred the plea taking for Kennedy Kalombotole after the defense team objected to a medical report declaring him fit to stand trial. Kalombotole faces charges on the murder of Gilbert Kinyua at the Kenyatta National Hospital in July this year. The court will deliver a ruling on October 22nd on whether Kalombotole should undergo another mental examination. Elsewhere in Narok, suspect Jackson Centura, accused of intent to abduct and confine his wife, Millicent Semeita Rotiken, will remain in custody after Judge Esther Mwikali Mutuku denied his bail request. The decision is expected on Wednesday, September 3rd this year. Ode Francis, Citizen TV, Nairobi.